What's up, everybody? So, how are you guys doing today? We are doing another stream, trying to come in and... Oh no, I'm talking to myself. There we go. Echo from Twitch. But yeah, so Comic-Con's over. Virtual Comic-Con's over. I did my panel, which was awesome. And I get to post it, so I'll be posting it on my own website, so you can go check that out if you want. Then I got some cool stuff that came in. My merch is finally here. See? That's right. And then we can now rep the Ninja Empire with my black nickel-plated keychain. Yup. You want one? Hit me up. Besides that, we are moving forward with I gotta do these ninja drawings for my profiles for my Patreon people, which I don't have, so I need to jump on that. And then yeah, we'll move from there. to do first? I guess we're just gonna, I mean, this one's almost done, so we need to add some color. And it's like, stop playing around. Get to work. What's that? What about the Ninja Rooster sticker? Elbow cough. Yeah, oh, the emote comes in as elbow cough. That is a dab, but I'm looking at it as the restream, right? Which doesn't work, doesn't do emotes. It just tells me what it is, and so apparently that's the elbow cough. Looks like a dab, but apparently that's the elbow cough. Elbow cough. That's funny. And why would you want to come and dab on me like I did something wrong to you? Alright, well, might as well. Oops. And see, these are so simple. I'm gonna go 4, put that in there. Come in here. We should do monkey watching YouTube. That's where we're at right now. That is where we're at. Is the music too loud? Huh? Is the music too loud? I don't know. I upped the music a little bit because I noticed that on the streams it wasn't really working, or you could barely hear it, so. Good. Awesome. So we're gonna do a red ninja because we need to do a red ninja. Well, I wrote him in as the red mask, so I guess we might as well make him red, you know? Should be what? Oh, this is Mr. Feather. Well, the thing is that I don't know if this person's gonna make it. So we don't know that yet. Maybe we should make it yellow. Whoa! It's very bright. We don't need it that bright. Put it down just a little bit. Give him bright blue eyeballs. Oops. The brightest of blue. Oh man, I can't do this. It looks like freaking Iron Man. Man. That stinks. Gesundheit. Gesundheit. Can't believe that I was trying to do an Iron Man ninja. I don't want to do no Iron Man ninja. What? Because Iron Man's his own ninja. Well, not really. He's a superhero, you know, so. Multiply. Gesundheit. Yep. I need to knock that out. What's up, Jay?
Hello.
How's it going, man? Doing all right? How are you this evening? Nothing much. How about you? Figured I should get some drawing in before I head off to bed, because, you know, I didn't get any drawing done today like I wanted to. So, when the wife was like, "Isn't tonight streaming night?" I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I better go." Like, oh, I guess I better go do some work then. It's always good when your significant other's like, "Look, aren't you trying to do something?" Like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, oh yeah, I guess so. So what I'm doing right now is trying to do my profile pics for Patreon so they can choose which one we're doing. I also have to do the actual drawing for that this week. Took me a while, you know. I was started a new Patreon tier while I was literally starting a new style. Probably not the smartest of ideas. So yeah, so I need to hook that up. Doesn't sound difficult. No, not at all. So you doing anything fun tonight? Doing something productive? As I try and be like, everyone should be doing something productive. We're in a pandemic. You ain't got nothing else to do. At least that's what my whole panel was about for San Diego. It's like, come on now, we're in a pandemic. You should be very productive. Yeah, I was gonna start drawing right now, but I don't know what to draw yet. Ooh.
Draw an angry rooster.
TNT Honeycraft says that you should draw an angry rooster. It's true. My angry rooster, my ninja rooster stickers came in. So that was a like an idea shortly. Right now I'm just scribbling. Oh, that's kind of the best part, I think. When you can just scribble. You're just trying to figure out, that whole development aspect of it, where you're just like, I'm really not doing anything, but hopefully something will come out of it. Now it can end up being a huge problem, right? Because you're not really getting anything, and then you get frustrated because you're like, I know I need to do something, but just having the ability to not have to worry about it, that's huge, I think. then sounds to me like you should just be scribbling. So I was like, so. Do 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 do. What's that? You should post on Instagram. Stop being a butthead. You don't want to, all of a sudden, you don't do anything cool. It'd be cool if you were on there and you were posting. And be like, look at my son! Look at how awesome he is, and you are not. So what? Like, so what? Like, look at him, marvel in his greatness. What is that? Hey Jay, how's the music? Is it too loud? I never know. I turned it up because I realized that in a lot of the videos, like if you're watching the VOD or anything, the music's barely there. Like it's very quiet. And it's not supposed to be super quiet. It's supposed to be able to jam out with it, you know? Right, when no one's in the chat. But, I mean, if someone's talking, and then it's like, oh, you suck, so quiet. No, I think it's fine. Okay. Mhm. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the silent stream either, but yeah. Right. Right.
It's like when I'm tired, right, and I don't really want to have to spend time trying to spend time.
Right. Yeah, it's really weird. But, you know, that's what happens when you're a small streamer. A small streamer and you don't have the popular style. Huh?
What's a popular style?
Remember when the person I was looking at before, Gabe? This person. That's what's popular right now. Yeah. Kind of realistic, you know, looking stuff, so. Alright. Small streamer life, yep. And what's gonna be funny is, you know, something's gonna catch, like I'm gonna go to a convention, and then finally, you know, once the conventions come back, and then people start following, and then it's just gonna be like, oh my goodness, man, you came out of nowhere. Like, man, I've been streaming for a while now. No love. Love of none. But it's all good. Because in all honesty, as I try to keep telling my son, because he's always like, ooh, one person left. Oh, one person came back. I'm like, dude, you gotta stop doing that. Huh? That's not you. Right. Right, and that, I mean, and that's fair, you know, I completely understand, but it's like, oh, you need to try and do something because, you know, they're gone, and I'm like, what do you want me to do at this point, man? And so, I'm streaming because A, I gotta do the work anyway. That's right. So it's like, since I have to do it anyway, and there's a possibility of being able to get a new audience or, you know, expand my audience, why wouldn't I just turn it on and be like, all right, If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. And I'll build an audience nice and slow. And then, because I was just thinking about it, a lot of people, right, they're going, oh, well, you want at least 10% of your followers to be active, right? So that's why with all these inflated numbers, there's like, oh, well, I have 5,000 people, 10,000, I have 1 million people looking at my stuff. But you only, the idea is that you only have 10% that's active, right? What I want is my 10% to be the 100%. So if I only have 20 people looking at my stream, those 20 people are active, right? They're the ones active. If I'm like, hey, thanks for being part of this. You guys have really helped and blah, 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 blah. I created a new product, and I'm like, hey, look, I made keychains, right? I got these cool reflective black Ninja Empire keychains, and I can go put it up on my store and people will be like, oh man, it's only $5? Heck yeah. And they'll go out and buy it. Or if I'm like, hey, I made this book, I made this art book or something like that, I'm gonna go put it up on Kickstarter or whatever the case may be, they're gonna buy it. Like, they're the ones who are supportive. That's what I want. So I'd rather have a very small stream, but a very active stream. So, because a lot of people will be like, I want to have 1,000 streamers and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I'd much rather have a very small amount of people, and those people just want to be, they're there because they enjoy the talk, or they enjoy the art, or the development, or whatever the case is, but they're enjoying it, and that's what that would be awesome. What's that? Yep. Let's see. It's much better to have a small active community than a huge inactive community. Yep. And I'm not trying to say like, oh my goodness, I can't have lurkers, because I'm notorious for doing that too. Going into someone's stream, saying hi, how you doing, letting them know that I'm there, and then I'm like, well, I got work to do, so I'm not going to be super active, but I'm here. And then if something pops up where I'm like, oh, that's actually really something I have something to say about that, then I'll say something, right? But I'm not super Gesundheit. I'm not the guy who's going to be super active, at every comment, laugh at every joke, and do all that stuff. I'm like, I ain't got time for all that. But I will support you, it's like, I don't know, it's just, I like my lurkers when they're there, but I do like it when they say something at first, so I know that there's a person there, and they're like, look man, I'm gonna go lurk because I gotta do my own work. It's like, all right, cool man, cool, go and do you, but just let me know that you were there. Jay says bless you. Very easy today. You hit what? That way, let's get to me. I'm trying to, no, I'm not putting any. What I've realized about my graphic style is that I don't need to put the highlight color on everything, because it does make it so, it makes it reflective. Anytime I put a lighter color on something like this, it'll make it absolutely reflective. And so it's like, oh, it's kind of shiny. And so I don't want that to happen on the clothes so much, unless it's like a leathery or plastic fabric. So I'm like, well, guess what we're doing? Not putting anything there. But it's hard sometimes, because I don't want to put something on here or not put something on here. Why is this not going over it? there. So the only way I can fix that is to come through here and do it the right way. It's like, gotta do it the right way. I know. It's a shame. So this whole new style and stuff. So I mean, this is not the new style. Well, what's funny, what I've realized is really funny is that my new style is my old style's head, just on a smaller body, right? So I can keep drawing these profiles, and you'll get the exact same thing, and then go, wait a minute, I thought that was gonna be more of a comic. You're like, yeah, you was wrong. Because, hold on, let me show you. Those of you who didn't see it. So that was the final version of one of the characters, one of the Patreon characters that was going up. So as you can see, the head itself is the way I draw regularly, right? So that's how I draw comics. Technically the whole thing is how I draw comics, but it's a little bit more stylized because it's at a proportion that's different. Like, it's only 2.5 heads tall, and so you look at that and you're like, oh, okay. You instantly think it's different, and I can get away with stuff. I can get away with more stuff with this, but this is going to be my style for Ninja Empire. I think it's going to fit really well for the 2D fighter aspect that I want to do. It's going to make animating just a wee bit easier, you know, because I can actually make, like, I can make stuff and it not necessarily be correct, right? And people will accept it because they're like, oh, that's chibi style, so that's why, right? Whereas if I drew it in my other style, they're like, oh man, you that angle of that foot, that's not right, that's not in perspective, right? And then you instantly get criticized and, you know, discarded just because, you know, you made some type of mini mistake. I think this is gonna work really well for me, and I like it. I don't know what it is. Like, I see chibis, right? And they're always this really nice, cartoony, ginormal eyes, right? It's just this very cartoon, childlike drawing, and this one just seems, it still has that cartoon, you know, that older X-Men style cartoon to it, just at a proportion that's smaller. And so I think it gives something different. And of course, you know, I'm the glow guy, so I always got something glowing in my pieces, so I like it. Anyway, going back to this guy. I'm putting in a background, putting in some shapes. Then I gotta put the thing behind him, my color outline rim light that I normally do. So, you know, just little things, nothing too serious. Oh wow, that looks really good.
Mostly it looks pretty simple, actually, like for the side
Ah.
here. Mostly because it's really thick, so like all I have to do is kind of like make kind of the shape and then make it kind of liney at the
This
top,
is
right?
gonna be the
Yeah, that's what's hard, and that's the one that takes up, like, it's right in the front.
like, that's not gonna be fun. I can see that. But see, you can do TikTok. You can still find. You can still you learn them on the YouTubes. I know, you ain't fooling nobody. It's funny. It's getting there. Bam! My crazy, almost interesting shape thing. It's always funny just making random shapes. Like, look at what I did. I made a random shape. Let's see. See if we can make another one. We can make another one and make it make sense. That's fair. It's like, I don't know, that's not so fun either. I don't know. I didn't know. Oh. It's just like, he gave up. Oh wait, he's still gonna do it?
No.
Oh.
He because he remembered there's already pride. He's like,
I'm like, oh, money.
Yeah, so, and then so he decided to make his Green Lantern thing an alien, right? But you can't see it that well. And he's like, you're like, how old is he?
10, 9, 9.
I think so. Sounds like you're probably with like 8, 9, 10, 11. And some
Yeah.
people, actually like art.
This.
Try.
And they try.
Like, maybe might find something.
Maybe.
I don't know how many good 6-year-olds are. I don't even know if the thing goes all the way down to 6 or 7. Not 6, she says. I know my siblings so well.
Orange. What?
So, this paper not only work on it, but this like really like it stabs up with this. So I just use it for stirring.
I was like, you just use it for stabbing things.
Wouldn't hurt anyone. They just like why did they stab? So I just use it for stirring my colors. I'm pretty good at ruining paper.
Tch. That is true. Paintbrushes are evil that way. Right. That is the problem. I did. Because I saw it. I was like, this is cool. I see it. Oh, pff, that's funny. You're just going to be consumed by your forehead.
Guys are so cool. I like your ninja things.
Which ninja dude?
I like, so I like the bigger ninja dudes, not the mini guys. Mostly for like kids.
Right.
I like the size and
Okay. You prefer Mac?
yeah. I like the big skull. I saw that big blue mask.
Yeah, those are cool. Because he has bow and arrow. Kind of. Yep. Yep. Yep, it's true. Very true. Probably should figure that out tomorrow. I mean, I'm probably gonna put Ninja Turtle Man right there somewhere. Move some of this around. So put him over there. 'Cause he's big. And I don't want to take this up because I'm going to be putting little ninjas as we move forward. There'll be more and more ninjas as they move on. So yeah, it's pretty big. He doesn't. But it's a big statue. It's way bigger than that. Even for like, like comparison size of like teacup. Oh, teacups are not that big, and then you have that's a big statue. Your mommy said something. What do you want? Oh, okay. Are you ready? Are you listening?
Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see this grass. Oh, if you stand over it. Oh, okay.
Like if you look down, it's like big money.
Got it. Got it. Aw. Oops. Nope. Gotta save this. I haven't done it. It keeps telling me that you just played me too, so. Excuse me. Alright, so that's one ninja done. One ninja. I don't know. We'll make it up on a flizzy. We'll make it up on the fly. Let's go! Oh, thanks, Jay. Time to scribble something out. Oh, no, not down here. My water. Not thinking. Not thinking. Normally pretty good about the super hydrate. Alright, let's see. What if we did Feather Rooster now? Nope, nope, nope. Sure, why don't we go with this guy? Alright. So now we're gonna try and jump in here and draw us something. And trying to employ some of the skills that I've kind of picked up by by drawing the chibi style, right? Started realizing that not every line has to be perfect, right? You can come in here and draw, especially digital, right? So one thing that I'm learning as I move forward, everything I do doesn't have to be super perfect the first time we do it. So get to play around with stuff and then erase things and start over, and yeah, I like it. You did your reading? The webtoon?
stars from what used to be like a 4-star game.
Right.
And so then it gets funny because the dude moves it next to her. Like they become neighbors. And she hates him. And then they become friends. And then it's this heart attack thing.
Dang. It got serious quick.
Is this because I'm trying to fix the problem because he like I don't know, like heartbreak heart attack. I don't know what it's called.
Heartbreak, heart attack. No, no.
It's something that's like when you're too emotionally stressed and like something happens, unless you pass out and you have to stay in the hospital.
Heartbreak. Kick Butt Truth Spitting panel at Comic-Con, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, thank you, Oren. Thank you so very much. That means a lot. I try to, try and motivate and yet still be that like that dad guy, just be like, you can do this, right? And I firmly believe it. There's so much out there, and I do these lectures mostly because it's the kind of stuff that I didn't get told when I was in school. And I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, which is, Ivy League art school, like super art quotes. Here we go, super Ivy League art school. It's like, so, I missed it, and yet I want people to hear it because I think it's important. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Snooty. They're like, they're supposed to be better colleges and stuff, for the upper echelon of people. Yeah. We smart people call it snooty. Because we know what it is. I mean, most of the time you get the same, like I gave the same education at the Art Institute that I got at Savannah College, right? And actually did it better. But the thing is that, you go to SCAD or some super college like that for the experiences that you can gain from it. It's not necessarily that you're going there for some out of this world education. I went to that, it does hold weight, so when you can actually say something like that, yes. But then also because the college has so much money, like SCAD does, it brings in a ton of people. So, like Lucasfilms came to the school and they were looking for people. Star Wars. So, it's one of those ones where the opportunities that were presented there were way more, like I couldn't give that same opportunity to my students at the Art Institute, right? So you are literally, and they have kick butt teachers, right? There's no denying that. And their equipment's always top notch. They have every opportunity, like if a new piece of technology came out, right? And you're like, oh my goodness, I really want to be able to work on, they have it, right? Because they have the money to buy it and try it and be like, oh, here you go. And then with that, they also have the ability to invest in certain things. Like they had some product designers make a car. They didn't make the car, right? They bought the engine and all that, but they made a car, right? And it drives down the highway. It looks really cool. And you're like, wow, okay. So they designed this car and the school funded the project to make it happen, right? The school has the car and they use it for a showpiece and all that stuff. They also made a boat and a motorcycle, and you can't get that at a regular school because they just don't have the money for it. But you go to a school like that and it's like, bam, here's money, right? So the reason why you try and get into any kind of school like that is mostly for the experience, right? All the opportunities and experience that it can give to you. That's why you would go to like a SCAD or a RISD or something like that. Because especially like the education is going to always be the same, right? Art is art. If I'm trying to teach you comics is comics, right? Depending on who you get, that's great. But one thing that I've realized is just because you're great at doing comics doesn't mean you're great at teaching comics. And so they might bring in people like, oh, well, this is so-and-so. They were the biggest person in comics from 2010 to 2020. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's gonna be great. I read their comics and life was awesome. Fantastic, right? You get into their class and they're a dud. I just make some lines. All right, that doesn't help anybody. So there's pros and cons to everything. You really got to do your research and try and find out what what it is you want to do. Like, what is the purpose of, if you were trying to go to college, you know, it's like, what is the purpose of you going to college? You know, if you're like, I want a really good education, then you got to look for the school that's at the top of the education board. You know, they've won all kinds of awards because of their teachers, right? Like, oh, this is the teacher of the year, and this is the teacher of the year, and this is, you know, teacher of the year. And you're like, all right, well, these teachers are great. I'm going to go there, right? But once again, it really depends on where you want to go. And so I always find it funny when I get to tell people, it's like, oh, I went to SCAD. They're like, oh, really? I'm like, I mean, yeah. They're like, you must be really good. I'm like, not really. You know, I'm like, I don't see myself as someone who you're like, oh my goodness, look at that guy. You know, he's all that in a bag of chips. It's like, no, I'm just a guy who had an opportunity to go there, and so I took it. We are, and that's it. You know, like that's all there was to it. Yeah. No, I did not. The funny part about that is, if you're trying to teach college, you just need a master's degree, right? And so, if you're trying to teach grade school, so if I'm trying to teach anything from kindergarten to 12th grade, I have to have an education degree. Because teaching, the thing that if you are trying to get into, you know, schools like that where you get to teach children, you need to know how to teach children, which is something that I think gets overlooked a lot by a lot of teachers, right? Like, I want to be a teacher, and you're like, all right, cool, okay. Right.
We're not choosing this. Come on, guys. You guys are big kids. I'm like, but you're making us sit on the carpet. Like, you can't have it
Right.
both ways, ladies.
Well, but see, I mean, and that's the thing, you know, like, you have to know who you're teaching. Like, I taught young people, and at one point, you can't look at it as, oh, I'm not teaching these children. It's like, they're 6. Like, show them how to glue a cotton ball onto a glue stick, right? And then add some squiggly things, and you're making a puppet out of like random crafty stuff, right? And you want to be cool, show them how you can make it so that it'll stand up on its own. You know, like, do that. Don't think that you're going to teach them how to become Rembrandt, because that's just not going to happen. But some people honestly think that they're going to come in and establish the next, like, Rembrandt. And you're just like, it's not going to happen. They're 6. Like, it's just, you know, so I saw, there were some memes that were going around about teachers teaching kids, and it was all about art. And they had right and they had wrong, right? And it was like, the assignment was how to, you know, to color a tree, right? And then there was the one that was colored brown, right, with green leaves, and they're like, this is right. Then they had another tree that was painted like, or colored, and it was like purple with blue leaves, right? And no, it was just colored purple and blue. And they're like, this is wrong. And I'm like, why are you teaching a kindergartner that their imagination is wrong? Like, that they're blue, that why can't there be a purple and blue tree? Did you say, oh, well, you have to paint a California redwood, and you were very specific about what tree you're trying to get, then yes, then those colors are wrong. But if you go, make a tree. You know, it's like, come on now, you can't do that. Because one of the things that I've realized is our creativity is hammered out of us at a young age. And there are very few of us who are able to hold on to it and become artists or musicians or something like that. But at a young age, creativity, looking at something differently, they're telling you to stop doing it. Like, don't do that. You can't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, Jay, I'll catch you later. Thanks for hanging out. Like, let's see. Sorry, I'm going to come back to chant. Sorry, I got on my rant. It's a bad thing about me. I do that. I had the privilege to take a couple of classes at Second City in Chicago. It was fine. It was okay. I've learned more at community classes not associated with organized school. Like you said, see, art is art. If you aren't turning that focus inward and learning about your craft, it doesn't matter. Absolutely true. Oren, like, absolutely. But the thing is that, you know, a lot of people look down at like community colleges or these not colleges, but institutions that are out there that are just like, hey, let's do this art. You know, we're going to teach you how to paint. We're going to teach you how to do this. We're going to teach you how to do that. And it's like, why are you guys, you know, stubbing your nose at these classes? They're great. And like, well, they're not teaching art. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, what are you doing? Nobody does the beret and the long cigarette. And like, we're not all like that. And especially now where you have, I mean, I'm drawing on a computer, for crying out loud, for a ninja with a freaking beak mask. Like, right? I'm like, I think that's cool. It looks cool. I'm gonna make his little flowy things look like they're pointed out feathers. Once I figure it out, right now it looks like an accordion, but you know, or, you know, I'm gonna figure that out. But I get to do this, right? This isn't what a traditional painter is gonna look and be like, you know what, that's some high art right there. That's not gonna happen. And so they poo-poo on things like community college or the, you know, like summer classes or something where you just go out and you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I think this is gonna be really cool. And it's like, why is that? And I have these arguments with my fellow colleagues, all right? I've been in education, in higher education, for 15 years. And I fight so much with other educators, especially art educators, about A, how education should be handled, and B, how we look down on Gesundheit, on a lot of these students who actually know more about what we're teaching than we do, right? I come in, I teach digital painting, you know, right? I'll come in, I'll teach digital painting. I know the basics and stuff like that, but I have a friend right now, Gabe versus Art on Twitch. He's streaming right now. He was one of my students. I taught him, I gave him his first lesson on digital painting. He hated it. Until the very end where it clicked. And he's like, ah. And then he started, you know, he loved it. But what happened? We didn't have another class of digital painting, right? There was only one class of digital painting. He took it, great. He went and learned a little bit on his own, right? And he became fantastic. Who does that? You know? So like, he became fantastic. He can, you know, and like, I look at him like, how in the world did you do that? And there are so many teachers that are out there that will not accept the fact that their student is better than them. And that's sad, right? I have no problems. People will come to me and they're like, oh man, did you have a problem that they said this, that, and the other thing? I'm like, no, that was awesome. Like, I learned something. That's fantastic. I'm going to use it in my next lecture because that was awesome. But there are so many teachers who feel as though they have to keep their students in check versus teaching. And that's why I miss the idea of the mentorship. Like, it was, you know, you had your master and apprentice, right? So there was the master blacksmith, right? And the master blacksmith would take on like 2 or 3 apprentices, right? However many they could take. And the apprentice would pay the master to teach them how to do their craft masterfully. And that was it. That's how it worked, right? Artisans did the same thing. Like, oh man, you're a master sculptor. I want to be a sculptor. Okay, here's the money that I'm going to pay you to teach me to do what you do, right? And you came, I mean, granted, of course, there were those who were still like, I am so much better than you. That is why you've come to me, right? But there are so many people who are just like, you're a fellow artist. So let's do art together. And I think that, at least for art school's sake, that when it came time for like college, if you could have that kind of setup, where you would come in and I'd be doing this, or I'd be streaming, and you could be there and listen and talk and draw and be inspired and do all that kind of stuff, right? And you learn, I learn, I'm giving you this, we're critiquing, we're doing this, we're doing that, you know? And it's like, oh, we're all learning and growing. You know, that's the idea of studios, when they have like 10, 12 people together and they all come into one spot and they're just drawing and, you know, talking to each other, and everything's great, and they're learning as they move on. And you can ask the other person next to you, how in the world did you do that? Like, how did you do that? That's where we should be heading. You know, we should be going back to that. Not heading, but we should be going back to that. And I think that's what would be important. But it's sad because it's not, you know, we're not. But we'll figure something out. I think that's something I want to do, like mentorship. You know, let's see. It's like the goal is for all of us to get better. Weird, I know, right? I'm hopeful as society at large is re-examining what role schools play in society. I do hope less traditional school structures begin to start becoming more of the norm. I think they will. I really do, especially now that everything is like going virtual, and we're starting like a virtual year. You know, so many schools are going, nope, people are still catching this virus and we don't know how to handle it, so we're going to do everything virtual. I think that eventually the brick and mortar schools are really going to have to re-examine how they teach class, because you cannot just come in and be like, okay, we're going to sit down and do this, right? And you got to do it on my schedule, in my terms, in my way, where they can literally go online and get the same education, if not better, right? And so you're going to have to offer something extremely different so that people will want to come. And I think that's a good, I mean, this pandemic is horrible. Lots of bad things have happened. As far as education goes, I think it opened up a bunch of opportunities for people to see just how schools can be better, because we have to do this, and people are becoming more engaged. Students are looking at it going, oh wow, yeah, this is really cool. Oh wait, I can use, you know, Google Hangout or Facebook groups or whatever, to where I can meet with my fellow students and we can work something out together, even though we are nowhere close to each other. And I think that's great, and I really hope that some people will take notice to that and make it so that, you know, if you're doing an on ground class, you're like, all right, but how about we meet face to face on Monday, but then on Saturday we're gonna meet virtually, and that gives you the opportunity to, you know, show your stuff digitally. You can do this, we can talk for as long as we need to, talk back and forth and stuff like that. Or you pop open the stream, right, and you just have an open studio. And you just draw and then, you know, the person who's hosting, which would probably be the teacher, would come in and be like, look, all right, so time to show everyone their work, time to do this, time to do that. I think that there's a different way. I can't necessarily say that it's going to be better, but there's a different way to look at how we're supposed to be teaching. So, love you too. Maker spaces for the art and for everyone. I mean, I would love to have, I think that, you know, that whole idea, you know, where Steam is coming along and everyone's like, oh, you know, we need to have these maker spaces, I think is a great idea, right? But they're treating it as extracurricular. And they're like, oh, well, you know, this is really cool extracurricular thing. But if we could make it so that the idea of a maker space where you get to come in and build things, do creative stuff, work forward and stuff like that, you'll actually be able to have this really cool interactive schooling. And I think that's something that should be examined, because if you could, I mean, just think about it, if you did have a maker space for all these arts where you're just coming together, working as though you're in one big studio, you know, maybe the class is built around the fact that you have one project. There's one project that everyone's working on, and then everyone gets to kind of build off of their own strengths. You know, so now, you know, and maybe it's an upperclassman thing, you know, to where it's like, oh, well, now that you guys are, you know, some foundation or whatnot, I don't know, right? You know some foundational work, and I don't have to teach you about your anatomy or, you know, line weight or anything like that. We can go forward with like, I got this job from DC Comics, right? And we are all going to be working on it together. I think that would be amazing if there was a school out there that's willing to just go, all right, we don't need to teach you per se at this point, like at a certain level, right? Now we're just gonna come together and do projects. And you have one person who's like the project lead, which would be the teacher, right? And then, you know, and then all the students would be the workers and stuff like that. I think it would be cool. I don't know or how it gets done, but when the internet redraws episodes of animation, it goes to show it really is just a matter of coming together to create something new and exciting. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And what kills me about most lectures and classes and education and stuff like that is the fact that it's always the same thing. We're going to do a you know, like a cover, or we're gonna do this, or we're gonna do, and it's always the same, you know, every time you have the same teacher and they're teaching the same thing, you know, and it's like, all right, well, the subject matter changed, and sometimes it's the curriculum, you know, but you know, think about if if the teachers had the freedom to go, all right, everyone, you guys are all animators, sweet. Here's what we're gonna do. Find a 30-second animation, you know, and we're gonna work on it. Like, that's what we're doing now. Right? And that's it. You don't, no questions, no. Everyone brings in a 30-second clip that they would like to do. We're gonna vote on it, and that's it. And then whoever gets voted, whichever thing gets voted on, they're like, this is the one. Everyone works on it. It's like, all right, then, you know, it gets broken down. People decide what job they're gonna have, and then you have a small production group, and you're like, all right, here we are. You know, this is what we're doing. Let's get it. Let's get on it. I think that would be awesome. But there's just so many limitations for like education and stuff, so it's really hard, and a lot of people don't see that, you know. They want to blame the teachers for all the things that happen, and it's like, look, I would love to teach you this, that, or the other thing, but, you know, I can't. But I think that even with that said, there's a lot of teachers that use that as a crutch. Oh, the curriculum. So they use it as a crutch, and it's just like, come on now, you could do better than that. So, oh man, I'm gonna draw a couple more lines, then I better get to bed, because I know I started a little late, but I mean, I'm streaming mostly now in the afternoons. So yeah, that's normally when I get streaming. I come in at night when I just feel as though I need to wind down a little bit. So this one's definitely this one's gonna be a short stream. Yeah, I'll buy that. We were just trying to figure this out. It's fascinating to watch companies try to reach out to colleges and find students who aren't ready to figuring out how to fix that pipeline from school to work moving forward. I mean, they are always looking, but they started looking at like certain places now, you know? They're like, oh, we know that these guys and gals here are generally ready, right? And so it's not that big of a learning curve or teaching curve. You know, they're just like, all right, we know that with this, we can actually waste the least amount of time. So, you know, the thing is that more companies would have to want to actually work with schools instead of going, oh, well, we hope that you do all the work. It's like, well, we're not working with you. So, you know, if you want us to be more specific to your needs, you need to come in here and help us, you know. But that takes more work. You know, nobody wants to do any of the work. That's the problem. Everyone wants the solution, but nobody wants to put in the time or effort to get the work. You know what I mean? It's difficult when there aren't teachers at companies and aren't current professionals. See, that's the big one. I think that's really big, is the fact that a lot of teachers quit being professionals, right? And so they lose touch with reality as far as what's going on, and then they're teaching that to the students, and then the students are like 5, 10, 15 years behind, and they're like, oh, well, we were taught this. I'm like, man, we haven't done that in ages. And so now they got to get retaught, and it's a problem. It's a huge problem. You know, that's why one of the biggest things is that I try and stay in the industry. I mean, here you go. Here's my next project from Skybox and Marvel. You know, so it's like I try and stay in the industry, because no matter how minute or how small, I try and stay with my finger on the pulse of what's going on, you know, just so that I can teach some other people. Because look, I'm streaming. I don't have to do this. There's zero reason whatsoever for me to be streaming. None. No reason whatsoever. Except the fact that I use this for my students, right? They're not doing it, and I'm like, you guys should be streaming. Oh, I don't like the camera, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And I'm like, but this is your generation. This is where we're going. Like this, it's not even where we're going. This is where we are, and you need to jump on it. And the earlier you do it, the better, right? So if you're 18 and you start off and you got 1 follower, 10 followers, whatever, by the time you're 25, you will have amassed an army. Right? As long as you stay consistent and work on it, you will have an army. But you got to do the work, you know? And I stream so I can be like, look, man, if this old dude can do it, he picked it up, learned it new, you know, then guess what? You, who was born with the computer in your hand, should be able to do this as well. Right? And better. So that's why I try, like I said, I try and stay on the industry, but I know for a fact I've seen way too many people, that's not what they do, right? They're just like, I'm a teacher, I'm good. And you're like, you're not good. You need to jump back on that horse and do some work. And so, you know, rest, appreciate the stream. It's been a pleasure to chit chat with you. Yeah, I'm gonna clean up a little bit more. I'm probably gonna be on for at least maybe another 5-10 minutes. So, but like I said, I'm trying to change up my streaming schedule mostly because I get up really early in the morning, and now I found out a way to get up in the morning, walk my dog, and then come in and stream in the morning. So I'm catching the European crowd in the morning. And so, you know, I'm just trying to find things that work, and that's once again me trying to do what I need to do to help my students. Like, look, you know, here's the thing, it's not always going to work out. You know, you might think, oh, I'm going to stream it I'm going to stream it 8 p.m. and it's going to be great because people like my work, you know, I'm funny and all that kind of stuff, and then you realize that everybody and their grandmama is streaming at 8. you know, and you're like, oh, well, that's not gonna work. So, you know, you gotta come in and start changing stuff up. And I want to be able to show that, you know, like, oh, well, I was doing YouTube, you know, and life was great. And then I started up on Twitch because I wanted to do this or I wanted to do that. You know, it's all for me, it's all a learning process so that my students have an easier time and they don't have to. Which most teachers, they don't, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it aligns with what I want to do too. Like, you know, whoops. I think that streaming is great and fun when people are there to interact with, you know. If you're not talking to people, then it's kind of weird, right? You're just staring at a camera. Most people don't, they just work, right? And that's absolutely fair. I know that for my first couple streams, that's all it was, right? Nobody was talking to me, and I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm making a line, or I'm making this. I'm like, no one's listening, so what's the point? So I just sat here, I turned the camera on, and I worked until somebody was like, hey, how you doing? I see, you know, I've been watching you stream, you know, every now and then, and come in, I see you stream, and then I leave, and then I come back, I see you stream. So I figured I'd say something. All right, fine, I'll talk to you. And I missed all kinds of people because, you know, I was working and I wasn't paying attention to the chat. And so I was working, and then they'd come in, they say something, I wouldn't say anything, and it's like, oh, well, they're gone, you know. But it was on, and that's all that mattered. Consistency, trying to get in there, bang. You all right? You take their excuses away. I do, because one of the things that, like, in my lecture, I mean, the panel that you saw, you know, I'm very much, it's like, get off your butt and do it. All right, you have this idea, great, that's fantastic, now do it. You know, like, well, I wanna do this. You know, it's like, I have a family. I'm like, so do I. You know, I got work, so I got work too. You know, I'm like, what's your excuse? You're making excuses. And then you start realizing the people who really want it, or they want it as a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with either one of them. So if you want it as a hobby, that's great, right? If you need the degree because your parents told you needed a degree, but you really just want to work at Chick-fil-A and do art on the side as a hobby, great. But you need to know that. You can't come in here and be like, oh, I'm gonna develop a company that's gonna make the next, you know, Toy Story. And you're like, okay, that's a lot of work. What are you doing to set that up? Nothing. How do you plan on making it? Well, I was going to do some work and hopefully that'll be good enough. That's not good enough. Like, that's not good enough at all. You know, so I come in here with that tough love going, no. Like, when people come to me, they're like, I want to be a concept artist. I'm like, you can't draw. Like, yeah, but I really want to do it. I'm like, well, then you really need to get to work. Because right now, you can't draw. And since you can't draw, you cannot be a concept artist. You know, and then, you know, going there and going, here's some work, here's a company that just produced something. What you got? And they're like, if you can't do this, you don't even try. And, you know, they're like, man, that's mean. I'm like, no, it's not mean, it's truthful. And I'd rather you hear it now than, you know, spend your 4 years, spend your money, get out there, and you still can't do anything. Because that's what happens, right? And you spend your money, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, thanks for your money, peace out, Holmes. And that's it, right? And you're like, great, now what? So, you know, it's just one of those ones where I'd rather be rough and you'd be mad, right? You'd be mad at me, right? Like, all right, so you're mad at me. So what? You'll get over it. You'll get over it. Randy Powell said the walls of challenge we hit in projects are there to keep the other people out from the stuff we want to do. They're there to be conquered. Paraphrasing. No, that's true. That's true. I mean, if you want it, go get it. Like, period. If you want it, go get it. If you don't want it, stop complaining about it. You know? That's it. That's literally it. You know, if you want it, go get it. One of the things I was just talking to someone today, and I was talking about getting what you want, right? And for the longest time, people would always ask me, they're like, well, what do you want to get out of this? How successful do you want to be? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I want to be convention famous, right? And I always say that. I'm like, I want to be convention famous. I want to be convention famous. And, you know, it's like I go to a convention, people know who I am, you know, they talk to me, they want my signature, my artwork, and then, you know, I might get invited to something special over here, over there. Great. But then when I leave and I go home and I go to, you know, the grocery store, nobody knows who I am. They're just like, oh, that's the dude with the afro, right? But that's it. They don't know what I do. They don't know any awards that I've won or anything like that. That's what I want. And I said that year in and year out. That's what I want. That's what I want. And I never knew until recently, like it never dawned on me that that's what I have. You know, it's like, oh, holy crap, that's what I have. And I look back at my children, when my children got upset with me and they're like, you're famous. I'm like, nah. And every time we would leave the table, we couldn't get 10, 15 steps without people going, hey, how's it going? Oh my goodness, oh, I haven't seen you in this, blah, 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 you know, what are you working on? And I was like, oh, wow, I actually got what I've been wanting. And so if you put that out there, right? You're like, I want to do this. I want this. And you put the work for it. Like, okay, what are you doing? I want this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work on these cards. I'm going to work on this part. I'm going to work on these paintings, whatever. But you're just working at it. It will happen. It will happen. But you have to figure out what you want. You know, most people are like, I want to be successful. Like, okay, great. What does that mean to you? I want money. Like, okay, well, here's $5. You've now successful. Are you fulfilled? Do you feel happy now? And it's like, oh, well, that's not what I meant. Like, well, that's what you said. And unless you can, like, you gotta treat what you want like when you're talking to a genie, not the Disney genies, but the real genies. All right, when you say something and then they twist it because you gave them this much wiggle room to interpret that how they wanted to. But if you detail it to the point to where there is no wiggle room and you work towards that, I guarantee you it's gonna happen. Guarantee it. Probably need to come in there and make some. Maybe we'll make one more line and then we gotta call it tonight. I think I may have spent my lecture time. Sure, we'll leave that there. But I think the one thing we need to do is curve this a little bit. Alright, we'll curve that. One thing that I've also realized is that I've been very angular with my work. So, doing that whole chibi style has really pushed me to realize a lot about my own work, which is great. The one thing I always try and tell people, like, you gotta constantly be learning. If you're not learning, you're dead. You don't have to learn great, you know, huge stuff, but you gotta learn something. Alright. I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it tonight, because otherwise I'll be up until the wee hours of the morning. My wife will hate me. My kids will hate me in the morning because I'll try and go to sleep. Or worse, boring. Yep, true. Alright everyone, thank you guys so very much for hanging out. It was very nice being able to chat with you for the little bit that I was on. Yep, I try and stream a lot. You know, I'll stream in the morning, I'll stream in the afternoon, and if I'm like, hey, I really need to wind down, I'll stream at night too. So, you know, thank you very much. Hope to see you at the next one. Yeah. Join the Ninja Empire if you can. Alright, it's the newest project. It's going to be awesome. Alright, well, I'll see you guys later.